Welcome back to another episode of watching a beloved childhood YouTuber be exposed as a horrible person. Now that hasn't actually happened as of recent, but it'll happen again soon, so this is for when that happens. Just a bit of a prediction for you. Penstradamus, they call me. As of late, the latest lore is that Jacksepticeye is autistic, and we knew, right? I mean, we know our own. Before I get into this one, I have some goddamn ACOG MSR gameplay for you today, taking it back to my 12-year-old roots. See, I've always been an ACOG user. You know, the quicker aim down sight was always great, and generally I just liked it more. You know, I'm not doing great, but I'm playing on PC. A 5-kill streak on plutonium is essentially a nuke, okay? So, you know, the level's different. And also, if my voice sounds a bit weird, I was recently at a party, and they played all the white people bangers. All of them. You know, even Vance Joy ripped... No, I don't think they played Riptide. But anyway, they played all the bangers, so I've been losing my voice. I'm slowly recovering. But on the topic of old COD gameplay and childhood YouTubers, let's get into today's subject. The internet. I'm 21, and looking back, you could easily say that I was raised by the internet. Like a lot of people my age, that came with a lot of tragedy, learning, wrong paths, and innocence lost. The older I get, the more I exist in the real world, and I fit in now more than ever, even with being trans, which you wouldn't expect. But more than ever do I interact face to face. No longer do I sit in the corner of class on my phone, having 8 hours a day on YouTube screen time. And that's allowed me to reflect a lot on what effects being so online had on me, especially considering I got my first laptop when I was 7 years old. Backstory, I kept stealing my sister's laptop, which she needed for uni, because I wanted to play World of Warcraft. I was definitely too young for World of Warcraft, but I didn't know what I was doing anyway. I mean, I would just get my characters to level 20 and then start again, because goddamn my mum was not forking out monthly for the full game. All I wanted to do was get to Ogrimmar. I think that's how you say it, and then run the basic dungeons over and over and over again. With that in mind, I've been on YouTube for a long time. I'm 21, but I've been on YouTube since KSI was making Hesky Time and Sketch Q&A videos. And in that time, I've definitely been hurt and healed by YouTube, and I think that's the beauty and horror of the internet. Take people like Slayer, who was probably my first experience of grief. I was a massive fan of his videos, and, you know, losing him was something that kind of really hit me. You know, now that I'm older, it's not as serious, but, you know, my brother walking into the living room going, oh, you know that YouTuber that you watch constantly because of his, like, Borderlands videos? Yeah, he's dead. I remember that being an insane shock to me. But, you know, there's more positive examples. Syndicate, I mean, maybe not positive, but, you know, Morning After Kill, Nerd Cubed, Emma Blackery, Pyrocynical, The Gaming Lemon. Do you honestly think you're fucking funny? What I'm saying is all of these are key parts of who I am. All of those were massive influences to me in a positive way. I mean, until they weren't. But as a young kid, watching Syndicate's Kino videos, or as I said, Slayer's Legendary Guides, that was a massive part of an escape that I desperately needed during that time. I think that part is the beauty of it all. Take Yogscast. I'm not sure how many of you remember Shadows of Israfel like I do, or Sips and Shin. But as cringy as it sounds, digesting their humour, watching them joke around with each other at that age, looking back, was a massive part of me learning things like wit and clapping back at people. Another example is Nigahiga. He spoke about making people laugh at school as a way to deal with bullying. That was back when, you know, everyone would do a video about their life using like a whiteboard for some reason. I don't know what that was about, but I watched that video while going through the exact same stuff he talked about. And I listened to him talk about those experiences, and it was nice to hear because not only did it show me I wasn't alone, but it was comforting because it showed me that there was a way out from the situation that I found myself in. And there is no way on this planet that I didn't like steal jokes from half of these YouTubers to say at school to try and get people to like me. It just 100% was a thing. If they didn't know the source material, I knew I could get away with it. If you're watching this and you're under the age of 20, you're telling me you've never tried to hit your friends with an unlimited bacon but no games joke. Come on. Come on, you're not fooling me. But seriously, I think for all of us, there's a context that without which we would not exist. And for 90% of my life, that has been the internet. The content I'm digesting, the content that I was creating when I was like 13, ripping off Leafy, making horrible commentary videos about other people's content. So yes, I do credit my introspection to watching COD commentary videos when I was a kid, or the realization of my environment from Vince Staples interviews, and to this day I do think comedy is Sean C's old intros from his album reactions like Flower Boy and Damn. I think that's a beautiful side of the internet that we don't really talk about as much, but it's not all good. I do equally credit a lot of very dark periods that I went through due to the internet as well. I mean, after leaving college, I went down a huge right-wing arc. Well, maybe not huge, but I was at an age where I should have really known better. And also, you know, that's not just the internet. I was attracted to that stuff for a reason because of my own insecurities, but the prevalence of that message meant that it's something that was always sort of there for me to fall into. I remember being 15 and seeing Ben Shapiro destroys liberal, and you know, God, we all remember the Jordan Peterson compilations, don't we? I'm from a small industrial town, and I have legitimately seen middle-class white boys talking about how the downfall of the nuclear family is destroying society. Bearing in mind, these same people come from two-parent family homes with property and self-employed business owners in them. That's a conversation that wouldn't have happened without the influence of the internet. I know you can have a much more nuanced conversation about that in terms of loneliness and, you know, the message that's fed to young boys, the generational trauma that's not being talked about among teenage boys. That's not a conversation I'm qualified for, but what I'm saying is the sort of collective consciousness we've all gained from having access to each other has really opened things up in a way that we could have never imagined before. And that sort of brings me full circle. Both of these things that I've spoken about come from the same thing, which is exposure. The internet offered and still does offer a space for everyone, which for the kid growing up in a shitty industrial town with very little people who they felt understood them, finding these YouTubers and musicians who offered a sense of understanding, you know, a break from the alienation, was genuinely life-saving. And you know, there's people in my life now that I know who felt the same way. You know, for me it was Brockhampton, for them it was Formorant and Sad Boys, and that's kind of a beautiful thing when you think about it. It gives me a weird sense of pride that those kids can find somewhere they call home, somewhere they feel safe to be themselves, when those around them fail them. The internet is responsible for a lot of toxic, manipulative, and exploitative things that go on, and in some ways has damaged us beyond repair. I think we all saw Jack Doherty tell the person trying to save his life to take the camera first before dragging him out of the car that I think was smoking. And I could talk about stuff like that for a long time, but I'm trying to focus on the more positive side of it. The internet was there for me during a time when I really needed it, and I know I'm not the only one who's had that experience. If you've got this far, there was probably a YouTuber that was formative to you, and if there was, feel free to let me know. For the 15-year-old who's finding peace in her sexuality through Kevin Abstract's verse on Junkie, the 13-year-old finding strength in storytime videos, the 17-year-old finding clarity through NPR interviews because she didn't have any other guidance. Those are lives that have been saved, and that's something that I think deserves a little bit of appreciation. My name has been Penny. Pull over if you get tired. Call me back. And bye.